Okay, we are recording in progress. So first of all, best regards from little Yecheskel Leib, my the newest carp. He got his name. Thanks God he's healthy. And so
Amazing.
uh, so the email. I don't know if anyone saw on Facebook. I did send a little bit of the speech I said, but the email that's going to come out tomorrow for Shabbat that will have like basically the speech that I gave about him, where his name comes from, his namesake, between my grandpa and great one of the great rabbis of the past generation. Um, and the main speech was really about strength and courage and the willingness to to work your way through anything. That's what we mean. The main speech that we try to give over to the little man. Um, okay, very very important Torah portion. Very important Torah portion. This week's Torah portion is called Chukkas, or if you like to say the tough, it's called Chukat. Um, what's so important about it is, first of all, there's different kinds of mitzvahs that we have in the Torah. One of the mitzvahs we have, and the one type is called a chok. We've talked about this in the past. A chok is what they call a statute, I think in English, which is really a mitzvah that doesn't quite have a reasoning, or there's something about it that doesn't really make sense. All right, some mitzvahs, okay, all right, I understand how that could build community. I understand how that's good for interpersonal relationships. I understand how that might work on, building your relationship with God, right? Some aspects of holiness. And okay, those all make sense. And then you'll have a mitzvah, that we don't quite have a reason for it. And when it comes to the mitzvah in the beginning of this week's Torah portion, Moshe doesn't have a reason for it. And King Solomon, who was the wisest of men to ever live, also has no reason for it. He says that the mitzvah of para aduma, the red cow, the red heifer, he says it boggles his mind, doesn't understand it. So that's one important. We're going to come back to that. Another thing that's very, very important, three, I guess you can call it. Three other things that are really important in the Torah portion that are, I guess, game changers. You have the episode of Miriam, which is Moshe and Aaron's sister. She's one of the seven prophetesses. So she passes away in this week's Torah portion. While she was alive, there was a merit for the Jewish nation while it was traveling and wandering in the desert, that they had fresh water that was coming from a rock. It was called the Be'er Shel Miriam. It was known as the Rock of Miriam. And we had this rock that water would flow from it. And this water, right, obviously it's miraculous, right? Of course. But we had it in our existence, in our presence, because of Miriam. Miriam passes away in this week's Torah portion. We no longer have that rock. And now, of course, us as professional Jews, we kvetch and we complain and we want water. Now, obviously, we all would complain for water, but we do know that God has kind of taken care of us, just a few times up until this point in Jewish history. Whatever. God will figure it out. God has no clue that we're missing water. He's just missing out on that point. He had no clue. So we had to remind him and Moses the fact that we were thirsty and didn't have water. After that happens, so then Hashem tells Moshe, okay, look, we have this rock. We're going to bring water back from the rock, right? Like a rock, right? We're going to bring water from the rock. And this is not the Dwayne Johnson kind, okay? We're bringing water back from this rock. And God tells Moshe a specific way to do it. And Moshe does not do it exactly the way that Hashem says that he should do it. He hits the rock. And yes, water does flow forth. But after he hits this rock is when it's officially sealed and done, according to most opinions, or at least some of the major opinions. It is a sealed deal. Moshe will not be going into the land of Israel. Major, major moment for the Jewish people. Major moment for Moshe, obviously. But this is a famous episode of Moshe hitting the rock. Last thing to keep in mind, there's more things too. Tomorrow's email, we'll talk about another one. But the other thing that happens is Aaron, the high priest, right? The famous Moshe's older brother. He was 3 years older than Moshe. He passes away in this week's Torah portion also. And you have a changing of the guard. Aaron, the high priest, gives over there's a whole beautiful episode where they go up onto this mountain, and the mountain up there, Moshe and Aaron and Aaron's son, Elazar, they have a handoff. They take the holy garments, the priestly garments, the high priestly garments, and take them from Aaron and put them onto Elazar. And that is a big, major shift in where the Jewish people are, certain reality of where the Jewish people are. Moshe is not going to be going with us into the land of Israel. We no longer have Aaron HaKohen, the high priest, who was the one that provided for the Jewish people the clouds of glory. Okay, the ones that protected the Jewish people. Why we have the holiday of Sukkot, right? So we no longer have Aaron either. There's a big shift of changing of the guard. This reality of like, oh my goodness, who's taking over for Moshe? Oh my goodness, no more Aaron. Now we have Elazar. He's a nice guy, but he has not been our leader. This is a new world. So these are things that are happening in this week's Torah portion, which is why it's such a pivotal moment for the Jewish people. Okay, that's just the lowdown and basic scoop. Some topics for research if you would like to look at any of those topics. One of the most challenging one, which I think the reason why it ends up in this week's Torah portion is because we're talking about mitzvos that don't really have a reason or we can't fully understand them. So that's why we have an episode of Moshe and the rock, right? That's such a puzzling story that happens in this puzzling Torah portion. That's the way that I've always connected those two. I know there's more connections, but that's just, I think, in a simpler sense, those two are the puzzling the mind, puzzling situations or challenging situations, and that's how those two kind of land in the same Torah portion. Let's jump back to the red heifer. Even though we don't have a hardcore reason for the red heifer, there's a lot of lessons to take from the red heifer. Background of the red heifer is basically like this: if someone comes into contact with a dead person, okay, if a person comes into contact with a dead person, they themselves become spiritually impure. They become something we call tamei. Okay, tamei. That's tes mem aleph. Tamei. They become spiritually impure. They have a spiritual blockage, and now in order to come close to Hashem again, or in order to be able to eat certain things, right? They have to go through a cleansing process, a ritualistic cleansing process, which is they have to be sprinkled with the ashes that come from this red heifer. This red heifer is very cool, interesting to look into. I think we discussed in the past years how even for outside of the Jewish world, the symbol of the red heifer, right? The need for there to be a red heifer is a sign of the Messiah. Okay, so every few years you'll do a Google search later or now, whatever it is, right? If you type in, most recent red heifer or red cow is found or something along those lines, the Catholic world gets very excited because they see that, they know that means that the Jewish people will have to head back to Israel and to the temple. And in doing so, they need to become spiritually pure again. And that means that the Jews will be where they need to be. When the Jews are where they need to be, then all the other things that they want to happen can happen. Okay? That makes sense. You could do more research into that. We'll leave that alone for tonight because we could talk about that for a long time. Okay. So, this red cow is not just like, oh, I was driving up the Mount Washington and I saw cows all over the place and wow, I saw a lot of red cows. This red cow is perfectly red, 100% red. Complicated, one black hair, two black hairs next to each other. They share the same root. It gets into nitty gritty halacha details, right? This cow has never worked, has never had a yoke put upon it. Okay, this is a very unique animal, and very hard to find. And whenever someone thinks that they have one, they know that the Jewish people will pay a lot of money for it. And that's historical too. Episodes in the Talmud, the Jewish nation, they're looking for a new red heifer because the one that Moses had, it lasted all the way. The original red heifer and its ashes, they basically take it, they slaughter it ritually, then they basically burn the whole thing to a crisp, take all those ashes, they save the ashes. When they need to sprinkle somebody, the ashes get mixed into water, special water, and then that water with the ashes gets sprinkled on people. Okay? Sounds heebie-jeebie. Okay, it is beyond our understanding. That is a within the world of God's holiness and God's purity and those kinds of things. But this is what we need to do for it to happen. Okay. Now, that's very unique about this red cow is the fact that it's a cow and not a bull. Most sacrifices in the temple, definitely when it comes to cow types, okay, they are male. right? They're male. In general, we don't usually eat the cows so often unless they no longer are milk givers. That's just from a that's just from a sustainability standpoint, right? When it comes to the carbonos offerings in the temple, in the Beis Hamikdash and the Mishkan, they did not usually have cows. It was usually a bull. Why over here is it a cow? Why is it a cow? So the Midrash says, why is it a cow? Oh, because the mother cow has to go ahead and be involved with the purification because of what we did with the golden calf. The mom's got to take care of what the calf did. Interesting. Very interesting. Right? Now, why is it the mom's problem? Okay. So let's just bring it out with a mushal. We call a mushal a parable. The basic idea would be, right, you have a maidservant in the king's palace and her little punky prince, or her little punky kid, I mean, right, is makes a mess in the palace. Whose job is it to clean it up? It's the mom's job to clean it. You clean it. Would you clean up after your kid? Right? So it's the mom is going to come to clean it up. And that's the same idea over here. The golden calf comes over here, causes trouble. We get into big trouble, right? And what's going to come to clean it up is going to be the mother. The mother cow is going to come to solve the problem that was created by the golden calf. Okay, those are the words. Just understand it a little better, a little deeper. Something that you probably, I don't know if any of us have thought about too much. Maybe you have. I haven't thought about this so much. I saw this again recently. What is like this? The potential of what we could have hit at the time of Mount Sinai, when we got the Torah at Mount Sinai, the Ten Commandments, right? We had that whole episode of receiving the Torah, taking the Torah from heaven and bringing it down to earth, right? Bringing God's wisdom into our world. That had the ability to bring us back to the level that we were on as mankind of the original mankind before the sin. Before Adam and Eve had the major error, right, of eating from the tree of life, right? Right before they went ahead, sorry, not tree of life, the tree of knowledge, right? When they ate from that tree of knowledge, that episode, right? That put into man, into us, into mankind, that we're no longer going to live forever. Sin is something that becomes a part of us. We no longer have an evil inclination like the snake that's outside of us. He got put into us, right? And now we have this internal battle all the time, right? And we now hit this place where now we sin and we have that concept of dying. This is all was introduced into the world after the original sin of Adam and Eve, Adam and Chava. Mount Sinai experience, the Jewish nation had the ability to bring us back to where the world is supposed to be. We could have brought everything back to that. Nobody would have died anymore. It would have been this amazing situation. Unfortunately, along came the episode of the golden calf, and that reintroduced into the world the concept of people dying, right? Therefore, the way to rectify the concept of people dying is going to be with the mother cow, because if it wasn't for that baby calf, that golden calf, there'd be no such thing as death. If there's no such thing as death, there will be no requirement to have the red cow help to remove the spirituality, right, the spiritual blockage that comes from coming into contact with somebody that's dead. It never would have happened. It was reintroduced into the world through the episode of the golden calf. So the mother cow over here is the one that has to come and clean up the situation that really was brought back into the world because of the golden calf. It wasn't there. It was removed. But when we went ahead and we failed and we misstepped and made a major misstep with the golden calf, we now are back to a place where we were before Mount Sinai, where we once again had sin, once again had death, once again had the challenges of the evil inclination being a part of who we were and not outside of us. And this is something that is a unique aspect of the red heifer and that relationship with the golden calf, and something that's I thought was very unique. I haven't thought about it in a long time. This concept, and how we have when you think about I think when you think about our world today, or what uh, the Jewish nation, when they got out of Egypt, they got out of Egypt because of the Jewish mamas, right? The Jewish, the Nashim Sikanios, the righteous ladies, are the ones that helped us be meritorious or have enough merits to get out of the land of Egypt. Us dudes, we didn't figure it out. We needed the ladies to help us figure that out. So it really is it's the mom, it's the ladies, it's the Jewish moms, the Jewish ladies are the ones that are that guide for us. They have a certain clarity and a certain ability to help us get to where we need to be. And that's something that we need to recognize that and appreciate that. And that's part of their role, right? So when a lady's learning this part of the Torah, it helps her to recognize more about her role in the Jewish people, right? And Jewish destiny. And us men need to recognize that about our wonderful wives, right? And our wonderful moms and ladies in our lives, right? Because they have that ability to bring that. And it's why it's so essential for us to make sure we have those kinds of relationships in our lives, because they are able to bring a certain clarity, a certain closure, a certain connection that us dudes, right, can't necessarily tap into on our own. And that's I think a unique aspect of the Torah portion and unique mitzvah. And that's the story. So we'll any thoughts on that? It's a lot to take in less than 20 minutes.
How do we know that the red
thoughts,
heifer...
questions?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you. Yep, what's up? We can't see you. We can hear you.
Oh, cool. I didn't know. I can't see me or hear me. Okay, there we go. There we go.
Now we can see you and hear you.
Yeah. How do we know? So why a red heifer? I guess why a red heifer? I mean, okay, I understand
why
the concept of I understand the concept of the mama cow, but I mean, we're talking about a gold calf. This was not a real calf, obviously. It was casting gold. Right. Why a red heifer versus any other cow?
Wait, what's the uniqueness of red? I think.
Is it just that historically they came across this genetic mutation of a red cow, and they gave it the significance of the uniqueness of it? Or
so I mean, the words of the Torah itself, or Hashem itself, says it needs to be this red cow. Why did Hashem choose red specifically? I have some ideas. There's actually, now you said it, there's a book that I should have looked at before we got together, but I didn't. I don't think I have it at home. I have to go to the study hall to get it. But one that would talk more about the uniqueness of red. But I think off the top of my head, when we think of red, we've talked about this in the past, I think. When we think of red, we think of Esav, right, which is Yaakov's twin. We think of David HaMelech, King David, and they're the opposite of each other. They both were phenomenal fighters, phenomenal, right? This was their thing. They both were phenomenal conquerors and hunters and those kinds of things. But what's unique about the two of them was the concept of, we have natural inclinations. So David and Esav both have the inclination of the red, or the Mars, whatever it means to be under the guise of Mars, which means that you have some sort of inclination towards blood, towards drawing blood, or violence, really. And it's about the ability that we have as man is to make choices, to make a choice as to what we do with that particular unique energy or character trait that we have. So I think redness is one of the classic examples in the Torah of where you see somebody have very positive, or it could be extremely negative. It could build or it can destroy. And that redness of so King David, he made the choice. He was going to go with the way of Hashem, and he never would hurt a soul, right? Or an animal without Hashem having told him that he should do so, or he recognize that Hashem wants him to do this, versus the opposite swing, which is King David's son, Absalom, right? Who also was a redhead, but he was an absolute murderer and tried to kill his dad. And you have someone like Esav who wanted to kill his brother, right? And killed, all kinds of things. Killed Nimrod, right? All kinds of things that Esav was known for. So I think that red has that uniqueness to it. It has the life, right? We need the blood. Blood is the lifeline, right, of mankind, of animal, right, of any living being. That's what blood represents, and it's how we use that. So there's that life that's there, and how do we use the life that we have? Use it in a positive way, like King David. Use it in a negative way, like Asaph. So I think that is part of the uniqueness of red. That's shooting from the hip. All right. Any other thoughts before I run the services? Questions, thoughts, disagreements, rebuttals?
Real quick. So
Yeah.
Miriam dies the same time frame as Aaron, and she was younger, correct? She was a younger.
She was the middle, yeah.
Oh, she was in the middle. She was Moses was the third. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. She was that. Never mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
She
so
was,
that's
she was younger than Aaron. Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah, I believe so. I actually now that you're saying it, I'm gonna double check, but I believe so. Now you're making me second guess. I'll have to text you that answer, Jeffrey.
No,
I'll email when I answer that later.
You're right.
I'm trying to think back to the episode of when
right.
the episode of when they put Moshe into the basket. So it talks about how Miriam over there, she went right.
Went to go get the nurse. Yeah. The mom is the nurse. Yeah.
So I'm gonna double check on that. I'll get back to you on that now that we're recording this. So I'll get back to you. All right. Any other thoughts or questions before you run on?
Thank you.
All right, phenomenal. So if you think of anything else, as always, phone, call, text, whatever, WhatsApp, email, they all work. I'm always happy to have conversations about what we jam it in this little half-hour slot. Unfortunately, this time of year, that lands with services. So, but that's how it goes. So everybody should have an awesome, amazing Shabbos. And yeah, it's a cool portion. So check it out. Some cool topics in there. And Jeffrey, we're jealous of you. And you know, I love how you said that Hashem was there because it's. I mean, Jason sees this all the time, but he gets to go into the Hashem's amazing world and just like, whoa, check it out. But us others, we need to like travel to see it. At least, or we could work on putting on the right lenses when we walk outside every morning. We can see the wonder, beautiful beauty of God. So, all right, everyone have an awesome Shabbos. Thank you so much. Take care. I look forward to being in touch.
Good Shabbos.
All right.
Good Shabbos. All right. Bye.